not the same, y'all don't think like this.
Nope.
I stand up straight, y'all don't breathe like this. Mean what I say, y'all don't speak like this. I am gone, a guide of nothing ever. We're not the same, y'all don't think like this. I stand up straight, y'all don't breathe like this. Mean what I say, y'all don't speak like this. I am gone, a guide of nothing ever.
What's good, everybody? This is another episode of G.O.N.3, Guides of Nothing Ever, pilot episode 12, with your host, ExurtBeatz, Genesis the God, Blonju, and DJ Kaushun. So yes, let's continue on from where you were going when you were talking to your neighbor, Blonju.
Well, wait. Congrats to you, man, for being a father yet again. Like, congrats to you for coming out tonight and inspiring some conversation in our Sunday spot. I mean, you know, in terms of what he was saying, he wanted to get in on the podcast and he wanted to spit a hot 16, and you know, we were like, you know, shooting the shit in the sense of like, well, you know, this isn't just some show where we rap. We have some, you know, transcendent conversation, kind of taking religion and building it, you know, into something, you know, more and less in a sense if we're quantifying it. But, you know, we talk about transcending duality on the show, and I was basically giving him like a, you know, an ad for the show. You know, it's not a religious show. It's not really about anything, and yet it's about everything simultaneously. So, you know, I yelled out across my whole apartment complex, you know, if you believe in Jesus, you're, you know, I said a, you know, a politically incorrect word, but I said you're retarded. And, you know, I was saying something incendiary in the sense to invoke the dialogue and know that, you know, what we talk about often seems pretty heavy, but it's more about a sense of humor. And I don't know, man, like everything we say detracts from, you know, ultimate spiritual embodiment, if there was such a thing. So like when we speak, we digress. Like, I think Genesis and I have talked a lot the last month or so about the language, and not using the language as a excuse for not being able to convey that ultimate reality or that ultimate spiritual macro perspective. And the language is still kind of even a box around it because it's so dualistic in its nature. So, you know, I think the purpose of the show in terms of the conversations that we invoke and evoke are, you know, to transcend duality, you've got to utilize the language differently, you know, and even create new words, you know, take the extreme bipolar nature of a, you know, polarized dualistic definitions and take them less literally. Like the infinite sliding scale in between them is kind of where we find home here in and amongst nothing ever. So if we are guides, it's only because we choose to have these conversations, and we even take them in jest ourselves. So it's no judgment, you know, if we come across as ripping a religion to shreds necessarily, because we feel that to be, you know, a necessary part of the conversation, the infinite experience or being, you know, where are we really at? Are we hiding behind the language? Are we hiding behind, you know, false idols and facades? Are we worshiping, you know, false idols and facades for our to squelch our fear, or is it really for our benefit? And, you know, I think mutually speaking, like, you know, between Genesis and I, and you being such a gracious host and giving us you know, a platform with DJ Kaushun, like, we've enjoyed, we learn as we speak, and we learn how to put feeling behind the words, so it's not just the words. Like, you know, I always advise, don't take me literally, don't take me face value. Like, it's going to be a frequency and an energy thing in terms of tuning into what the show is really about, or you know, what are bars? Like, do bars have to be witty ass raps, or can bars even be prose and the dialogue we create while we have no contrived point. I'm not trying to get to an end point and hand someone an answer, because even if I hand you a map, your perspective and perception and capacity might make you look at the map or receive the map differently than I've drawn it. So I'm humble enough to know, my worth is definitely not more or less than anyone else's. And, I enjoy that unknown. So I find peace in the unknown. And I even find peace in the idea of fear. Like fear is almost a foreign concept to me, because I'm not residing in it literally. So it's almost funny. I find humor in everything, because I don't attach to the literal definitions of words. So man, we're just massaging the language, I think, is really something we've been working on lately, and being more efficient and refining our own process to be as felt as possible, maybe not as heard as possible or as clear as possible, but do you feel me?
How you doing, Jen?
I'm just chilling, just listening. Another thing about it is not attaching, we've said this a million times, but not attaching to the language while using it as a tool to explain the unexplainable in a relative and finite way, and still understanding that these are just like for you to the irony and the paradox in becoming non-polarized or non-dualistic is to embody the duality. Like you have to embody the duality first before you can embody you have to embody duality before you can embody the non-dualistic, because you have to be able to see all of the polarities.
Correct.
You have to be able to see all of the different facets of existence, which takes lifetimes. So this discussion is something that people can only experience. You can listen to us all day, but until you have the experience, you won't truly understand what we mean by not attaching to the language while using the language and embodying the duality to become the non-duality.
Correct. That's very well put.
It takes many lifetimes to do. And when I say many, we've been here on this planet for billions of years. Like, we may not have taken this form we've only taken this form for up to 200,000 years as Homo sapiens, but we were the first organisms on this planet. And even before then, we were what science would call inorganic material. We coagulated particles into atoms, and atoms into molecules, and molecules into cells, and cells into from single cells to multicellular organisms, etc. All the way up until now. And even now, people have, in general, haven't reached a collective and, individual, sum total of mass experiences that allow for the embodiment of the dualistic polarities so that they can reach the non-duality. So, it's not something to feel ashamed of when you're intellectually processing it, but you can't fully embody it, or you're emotionally processing it, but you can't fully embody it, because it can only happen when the sum total of events allows for it for that particular organism. And eventually it will happen as a collective, but only under the weight of the sum total of events.
Organism. There you go.
Yes.
Organism.
Yep.
So we made a good point yesterday when Jen and I were talking on the phone, and I said ultimate. I was talking about ultimate macro zoomed out perspective, kind of in the intro, and we said though ultimate perspective is actually no perspective, and then Jen said
an infinite perspective is all perspective.
Okay.
Well, but relative, because we talked about the
Relative
ultimate
perspective is
so it was ultimate perspective is no perspective, and
and relative perspective is all perspective.
There you go. So it creates a bridge. Okay, so here's the thing, and this is the bridge between the extremes in terms of the box being the language and the tool to utilize to get to the meat, because we're basically dancing around the meat our whole existence and then wondering where the fuck the meat is. So you know, think of ultimate perspective as relative, no matter how ultimate it might be, and equal in nature, different in degree. Think of it as an infinite sliding scale, maybe in a sphere. You know, it could be third or fourth dimensional if you want to imagine it that way. But those polarizations are bridges to each other, and they're not divisions of dotted lines, you know, separated. So, you know, I think for me, I work well with, you know, pictorial images in my mind. So when people are telling stories, I'm always like imagining, you know, that person in that situation, and I put, you know, blank faces on the people they're talking about if I don't know who they are. And I think this is similar in terms of you know, help 101, like what could be helpful. So like imagine the polarized dualistic words, you know, as far apart as you ever want to imagine them, and as an ultimate perspective as possible, and then still understand that they're only relative to perspective, and they're not, you know, quantitatively worth more or less than one another, and they can only be connected and not divided. They begat each other, and it's like the chicken and the egg. What came first? You know, neither came first, because they were always both in existence simultaneously, and then not at all. You know, it's all about capacity to perceive at that point. And
who's
how
to say the
literal,
chicken had to lay the egg first? How, you know, reptiles laid eggs.
well, but
So what came first, the reptile or the egg? You know?
but don't think of it linearly, okay? That's the other side of it. Think of the bridge as a suspension bridge that, you know, bounces up and down and could be walked on, you know, right side up, upside down, any which way, and you wouldn't actually know which way was right side up or upside down. There's just like, you know, infinite suspension bridge on, you know, a third or fourth dimensional axis of rotation. So that being the bridge between us identifying with, like Jen said, the most polarized viewpoints, most polarized experiences, and then realizing that we can only be both of them and none of them, at which point being becomes its most efficient or its most aware. And then, you know, we take pride in our awareness. So why are we quantifying it? Why do we want to be more aware? You know, like what are we really chasing? Like, and I think that's
security.
Right, and
definitely.
Right, and fear. And remember, we talk about this a lot because it's all society being based on the fear of death. So of course, you know, if you move based on the want for security to appease the fear of death, then you're going to believe in an illusion. There's no reality there, because everything is contingent upon, you know, something you're scared of, that you're basically just scared of the unknown. You're scared of something you don't know. And then you fill in the gaps. We, you know, with the language, fill in the gaps with literal bipolar notions of what to believe in and what not to believe in. And like what you were asking me to go back to, that was where we were at when we were pre-show talking about beliefs. Because then I said, I don't have any beliefs. I can't believe in anything, because if I do, then I'm believing concrete to be eternal and, you know, not fluid. So, you know, I've done well internally in terms of the dialogue and my mind's eye. I don't even want to say my brain, but obviously I think in English. Like, why do I think in English? I've got to find a way to not disassociate, but become unattached from the bipolar way of thinking. Like thinking in dualistic terms, thinking, oh, I hate myself, oh, I love myself. Like hate is love. Like when I sit in between them and I don't embody one or the other at one point, then, you know, at that point I have transcended duality, you know, from this relative perspective. And no matter how ultimate it might be, it can only be relative because it's capacity. It goes back to capacity to experience. Like when the all allows the perception to be received, it will be received. But then, that's where faith is not a bad thing, because this is not an attack on faith-based feeling, because you don't have to believe something to have a inherent value to faith. Like I just have faith that me being unsure or not knowing anything and having no beliefs, that's okay. Like we were saying, it's okay to not be okay on the Hayru show last night. We talked about mental health awareness. This all goes to the crux of our problems. And I'm not, we could take this into the, the gun control versus mental health situation, but it's always both. It's always both. People want to blame one thing and not another. And it's always both and all. It's always a collective responsibility of infinite variables that goes into a situation as to why a certain set of actions occurs thereafter. But then, if you only take into account one or the other, then that's what creates blame, and that's what creates the perceived division, and then the perpetual living of an illusion, because everything is still fear-based. It still goes back to fear of death, chasing security. But if you're secure in the fact that I don't know and I'm okay with that, then communion becomes the only goal. So that's where, I can embody symbiotic relationships, because I have nothing. I feel like you don't owe me anything. Genesis owes me nothing. ExurtBeatz owes me nothing, and if I give to them, I'm not giving to them because I expect to receive. I give to them because I know I will receive, because it's not even about trust at that point. And even when I say I know nothing or I believe nothing, that type of knowing that I'm speaking about, and now I'm really going off the track, but that type of knowing isn't literal. It's a feeling. Okay. So we have to detach from the literal nature of the language and then get back to the gut feeling, which isn't always described in a bipolar language with one side and not the other. That feeling, when you feel something, no matter how deep it is, like the deepest depression is only because you love something so much, or you loved an idea of something so much. So it's tied, the darkest feelings are always tied back to the lightest feelings, and they are not separate. They are one and of the same. And, we're closer collectively to that feeling than we ever realize. And most people are still, no matter how many, we're seeing shootings every day right now. Every time I look at the damn news, and I don't want to read the news all day, but I check it, and there's a damn shooting every day. And it's like, those people, why are they not scared of death? Or are they? You know what I'm saying? Like, they just were so depressed they didn't care anymore, but they're still scared. It's hurt people. So
Definitely.
Fear is begetting fear at a rate now where we move. Our primary mover is fear, and it's extreme. So how do we appease that fear, I think, is the number one question, and a lot of what we talk about on the show. Trying to find a sense of humor in this conversation, because if you laugh once a day sincerely, your life's going to be more fulfilling. That laughter, if it was sincere and not contrived and not some corny ass bullshit, you're gonna leave that day slightly more spiritually fulfilled than feeling like you have to identify with a void. And I don't know, it's like, how specific do we want to get to appease the fear? And I think humans have driven to be overly specific at times, where, that's what has made us embody such a one-dimensional side of the polarization of the language, and the hope that, you could kill fear entirely. But a little fear is fun. Like, think about Stranger Things, or any of the, some of the dopest entertainment movies or shows of all time. Like, people want to be scared. So there's a fine line that I think we're closer to finding the balance than maybe humans' collective actions, or what we perceive to be so negative every day. Yeah, I know that was a long one.
Well, in the Western society, they put an emphasis on information as if it's more valid than experience. Like once upon a time, the priest was, because of his experience, he was praised because he was considered a wise man. It wasn't necessarily about what he knew. It was about his experience of life. Because that's truly, it's beyond intellectual knowing, because that's not an actual knowing. You know what I mean? Nowadays, it's more about how much information you have versus what your experiences are. Like if I tell someone, yo, I'm teaching this class on psychology. I was a schizophrenic. I was bipolar. I was manic depressive. I was suicidal. I was on drugs. I sold drugs. I went to prison. Blah blah blah. They're gonna be like, yo, you're not qualified. You know what I mean? But if I say, yo, I got a master's degree or a PhD and I went to college for 10 years, then they're like, yo, you're qualified, because they put more of an emphasis on pseudo intellectuality and pseudo embodiment versus true embodiment and experience. So if you ask someone and you say, yo, would you rather know everything and have very little experience, or would you have a mass amount of experience but know very little? Most people are going to say, I'd rather have a bunch of information and have very little experience, because one, that's going to get me a check in this society. Two, I'm going to get more prestige and fame and glory from having this pseudo sense of intellectuality, which is perceived as true intellectuality versus, the embodiment with the lack of intellectual information, which may or may not actually be accurate. You know what I mean? So it's like it's the emphasis that they put on certain things, and it just goes to show in our culture. You go overseas, and you go to certain Eastern cultures. The more experience you have, the more praise you get. You know what I mean? But the more you read, the less likely you are to be praised, because they emphasize experience more. But in the Western Hemisphere, once again, it's, how many years did you do in college? How many books did you read? How much information can you memorize, regurgitate, and systematically express in a supposed coherent way?
Brains over brawn.
Yeah, so it's like, it's just, where is our emphasis at? And in the Western culture, we know exactly where it's at. You know what I mean? Like, if your drug counselor, and then here's the funny part: people with the experience value somebody with the experience. Like, if you're on drugs and you go to a drug counselor and he's only read about it, you're not trying to hear that shit. Like, you'll go if the police force you. You know what I mean? Like, or like you have to go because they're gonna throw you in jail, or there's some type of like punishment you can get from it, or that's your only option. You're gonna go, but 9 times out of 10 they're gonna say, I'd rather somebody who has been through it and can empathize with me. But most of the time, it's not about empathy with most of these fields academically, because it's about a paycheck. Like, people don't go to college and get a degree and say, this is exactly what I wanted to do with my life. It's like, no, This is the degree I needed to get a fucking paycheck so I can survive in this fucked up culture. Oh my God. And that's why you have shit like school shootings and pollution of water and air and food, and motherfuckers embezzling money and taking money from people, and you have homeless people everywhere. It's like, because of the emphasis that we put on superficial shit, because of the money that you can get from it and the lifestyle that you could potentially live. And in reality, you could know everything and understand nothing, or you could understand everything and know nothing. Right. You know what I mean? Like, and the one, like, neither is superior, but one is more realistic. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, I'm not gonna say that mine is superior, because if you only intellectually understand something, you could tell someone that has the experience, and you could elaborate and explain it in ways that they can't, which is a good teaching mechanism. That's why there's many teachers but very few masters. Like, I could teach you karate all day because I know everything about karate. Not saying I do, I'm just saying hypothetically. I've read every martial arts book on the planet, but I couldn't I couldn't beat a fly up. You know what I mean? Like, but I could teach a motherfucker who's a natural, and then, like, he could, like, master it in, like, a year or two's time, and I've studied it for 30 years. You know what I mean? So it's like, I'm not going to say one's superior, but I'm going to say one is just more in tune with reality. One is more experiential based. One is more episodic versus semantic. You know what I mean? One is more practical. The other one is less practical, because if the world goes to shit and all you have is book information, you know what I mean? Like we was talking about the other day about, like, rapping, like, oh, I can rap, but, like, can you farm? You know what I mean? Like a motherfucker who knows all this shit. Like, look at how many doctors there are that know everything about, not everything, but they know a lot about the body and chemistry and, but they're fat and obese and got diabetes or health. You know what I mean? It's like, like, we need you to be able to actually make this practical, because if shit goes to shit, there's no time for you to learn it. You have to embody it. You know what I mean? Like, you can know everything about working out, but, let's say there's somebody trapped in a house and the tree fell, or the house is on fire, and you gotta help them in a fire. It's like, you don't got time to experience this in the now and just hope that you get it right. Like, we need a motherfucker who's been in 100 houses on fire before and saved people. You know what I mean? Like, you don't need a motherfucker who knows how hot fire is. You know what I mean? Like, how long the ladder is, and how to, how to theoretically drive the fire truck. You know what I'm saying? Like that's gonna come in handy. You are gonna come in handy, but you're gonna be the guy that we're farming and giving you food so that you can teach our kids about farming. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, you have value, but you know what I mean?
That's a lot of irony, man.
It is. And then you can't die, be on the higher planes, and then, God's like, yo, what did you do with your talents? And you're like, I read a lot of books. You know what I mean? Like, the creator's like, back to earth you go, motherfucker. You know what I mean? Like, but if you go to the creator and you're like, I didn't read any books, but I loved people. I cared about human beings. I always gave, and it wasn't about receiving. I was always nurturing and loving and kind, and I shared, and I was polite when I didn't necessarily have to be, and I didn't seek revenge. Memorizing the text. Let's embody it, because you're if that's all you do, you're gonna be the one stuck on earth repeating this process. You know what I mean? Which is fine with me, because once again, it goes back to the sum total of events. Whenever you're able to embody it, the sum total of events will allow for it. So all of that information will eventually become experiential knowledge, but don't put an emphasis on it to the point where you value it so much that, like we said earlier, this dude's so good at what he does, there's no way he can make a living off of it. Like, that's a sad scenario in the Western Hemisphere. You're so nice and altruistic that there's no way you can make $1 and feed your family. You know what I mean? Like, that's crazy. Like, if somebody's altruistic, of course nature's gonna compensate him, and he doesn't give a fuck about the money. But in society, it's like, you can be the nicest motherfucker, but we don't give a fuck about that. You know what I mean? Like, in general, the populace, they're like, yo, okay, so what? You're nice. You're gonna be a bum for the rest of your life. Why didn't you get a degree? Why didn't you fucking get a trade or something? You know what I mean? Like, or you make, it's like, imagine if there was a guy who went around and just turned everybody's soil into workable soil where they could grow gardens, and he made gardens in everybody's house. Motherfuckers would eat the food and not give him $1. They'd be like, some people would be pissed that you was even on their property. They'd be like, why the fuck are you building a garden when there's a grocery store down the street? You know what I mean?
Wow.
It's like, we probably wouldn't even feed that guy. You know what I mean? Like, and then be pissed if he came to our house and wanted 1/3 of the fruits of his labor. You know what I mean? Like, we'd probably sue him and be like, well, this guy was, and then he would lose in court because he was trespassing. You know what I mean? Like, that's the society we live in, where a motherfucker can plant a garden at your house, ask you for a tomato, and you sue him.
Anybody can sue
You know what I
anybody.
mean? Yeah. I'm just saying, and win. Like, he would actually lose, because the court wouldn't give a fuck about his altruism. It would be like, well, the law says that he's trespassing even though he saved your life. Like, you could be dying on your property, he saved your life, and then you could sue him for saving your life, and he would lose in court, because it's not about morals and ethics, and it's not about embodying infinity and applying the rules of nature to the benefit of mankind. It's about made up superficial laws and fucking putting emphasis on superficial shit that's irrelevant in reality.
Yo,
and that's why you don't see a bunch of yogis in the Western Hemisphere, because he's gonna be a bum, he's gonna be a beggar, and 9 times out of 10 people are gonna turn their nose up at him. Like, imagine if you was a yogi and you said, I'll heal you for free. You know, how many people would give him money? You know what I mean? They're gonna be like, first of all, you're not healing nobody, bum. If you could heal somebody, why don't you heal your economic status? You know what I'm saying? Like,
I love it.
It's gonna be too much judgment and shit, you know, like. And I'm not saying everybody's like this. I'm just saying this is the culture that we live in, where it's like, in the Eastern culture, yes, in the Eastern culture, if someone says that, they might, you know, people are more likely to believe that it's possible, even if this motherfucker can't do it. And then they might be healed off the fact that they believed in it. Like, he might not be able to heal anybody, but they will believe in it so much that they will become healed because of the placebo effect. Over here, a motherfucker could really heal, and we're in such disbelief that we will make ourselves sicker.
You're killing it, bro. You're killing it. So I think that there's two things that come from everything you just said and everything we've been talking about, and it's, where are we placing our value and why? And I think we're placing our value on fear-based living, you know. Everything is driven still by fear. And number two, everybody takes everything literally and personally. So, you know, if you're living in a box of your own opinions and you still somehow want to think you know better or more than anybody, and, you know, it's ironic that I say that, because people are always thinking like, oh, I know some shit. And I'm like, I don't know anything. I chose the experience path that Jen just talked about. And, you know, I didn't even choose it. You know, I've connected to infinite experience while not being attached to one experience or the other. You know, it's always a both and, not an either or. So when we talk about the value of fear, you know, we've somehow vaulted the value of fear to the height of, you know, what is the dollar and capitalism and the way we trade services, the way that we trade energy, you know, which is really what the crux of it all is, you know, energy. And it's how we move it. Like, how are we going to move with the energy? And we fight the current, you know. We are the exact metaphor of fighting the current, of swimming upstream. And if we want to be salmon, you know, we can be salmon. Salmon tastes pretty good, but
and they swim upstream and die.
You know, that's you know, it's ironic, you know, because like I love the taste of salmon, but like, I don't want to just experience salmon. I'm not trying to be a salmon only forever. I'm not trying to take pride in my salmonhood. You know, I'm here as an infinite experiencer, so I can empathize with any scenario, whether that be a one-celled organism from what we call 4 billion years ago, or, you know, a very multi-dimensional, multi-celled organism as a human. Go ahead.
It's crazy how, like, you use the word current, and then money is currency.
Of course.
But we don't let it flow. Like, in the dollar bill, it says, "In God we trust," and if we really
That's
trusted in God, we would let
Yeah.
money flow. Like you
Yep.
wouldn't be so
Yep.
stingy to give somebody $1 if you really trusted
Yeah.
in God. You wouldn't
Yeah.
go to bed fearing how you're gonna pay your bills if you really
Correct.
trusted in God.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like we
yeah.
write, we it's the most contradicting society on the
Yeah.
planet. In God we trust, and then you put your money in a bank and you go to sleep worried about your bills,
And
you're
don't trust
afraid
no
to
one.
and don't trust no one. Yeah. Yeah. It's like, how the fuck you trust God? You can't. God
What are we
is man. You
doing?
can't. Yeah. What the hell are we doing? It's backwards. Like you said, we're swimming. We're fighting the current, and you're fighting currency because money is meant to flow, but it can't
Yeah.
flow if your stingy ass keeps it in a bank or keeps it in your pocket. You know what I mean? And you're constantly worried about how you're gonna get more of it, so that you can survive as an independent organism when no one is actually independent. Like society is about communion and communication, yet we refuse to communicate, and we refuse to share, and we refuse to empathize, and we refuse to exist within the current. Imagine if a river did what we did with money and it just said, I'm not gonna flow today. Like, then we wouldn't have water. There'd just be a bunch of dammed up water everywhere. You know what I mean? Like, the river freely just flows, and it offers itself altruistically to everyone at all times, and it always meets its measure. Like, you can put water anywhere, it will find its measure. But we're not like that. You know what I mean? Like, we're trapped in our own bodies. We're trapped in our own religions. We're trapped in our own egos. We're trapped in our own communities. We're trapped in our own cities and states and countries. We're trapped in our own cultures. We're trapped, you know, in an infinite amount of boxes, and we feel like there's no
Right.
way out, so we just
Right.
subsist within the box, and we hope
Right,
that no
right,
one
right,
disturbs our peace.
That's a pretty good ultimate description of this relative scenario. I mean, it goes back to a sense of humor that nobody wants to have, you know, like even these moments we get pretty serious, like we find a chuckle here and there, and sometimes we laugh hard, and you know, laugh hard, cry harder. You know, this shit is so serious and so not all simultaneously. We couldn't even fathom, you know, the feeling because we're running from it. And you know, it's like we choose to be scared of everything but what we should really be scared of. And you know, it really is ourselves. Like we're projecting. Everything's a projection. So you know, I like to run to that fear within me. I don't know, it's an unknown, you know, and it's all of us. Like it's an energy thing, it's a frequency. We're all attuned to it, whether we fake choose to be or not. And yo man, it's a journey. It's the journey is the river. Like you know, we can fight the current as long as we feel the need to, you know. And that's it's nobody's fault, and it's a long ass river.
Yeah, it's not. It's the sum total of events. We can only operate under the influence of our sum total of experiences. But what we should really fear is that if we keep living in fear, we'll kill ourselves.
Yeah, well, and that's what's happening though, bro. That's why we're having this conversation. I think a lot of this philosophy, you know, does go back to mental health, like how to apply what we're talking about. You know, mental health issues can arise just from the societal situation someone is born into. So it's all about where you come from. And I'm not, you know, it's about responsibility, collective understanding, not blame. But like when you look at the circumstances of what America is over the last 400 or 500 years, obviously there's a lot wrong. And it's mostly, you know, racism and, you know, male false patriarchy, hierarchy, religious institutions, mixing God and the government, and, you know, forcing people to think they need to believe or feel a certain way, you know, sexual, you know, any kind of judgment through sexual orientation. Like we're built into a society, so it breeds mental health issues. You know, like of course people are going to be fucked up because they get no, you know, true love and no true reflection in what they see in society and what people, you know, want them to feel and believe. And it's very closed-minded and archaic when it comes to, you know, practice what you preach, or love your enemies, or love your neighbor, all the things. We have all the cliches, we just don't embody them at all. We choose to say them and then look the other way, literally go behave the opposite way, because we feel like that's somehow, that's wrong. Those things are wrong. Like, what do we choose to believe is wrong? And that's, what's wrong? What, murder, rape, steal, that's about it. And, even
Well,
those
we
that
truly don't
commit those acts.
understand. We truly don't understand what we believe in. So if I believe that if you do good, good will happen, most people that want to do good stop doing good because they fear that good won't happen to them.
Well, yeah,
They're like, you know what I mean? It's like, I
I know.
believe that if I do good, good things will happen. But I believe that there are bad people out there, so I have to keep from doing good because I'm afraid that those bad people will stop my good. When the law
Hmm.
says that if you live and let live, if you give, you shall receive. They don't trust the universe. Back to
Right,
in God we
right,
trust. We don't trust the universe and
right,
its laws. Like every day, the planet spins on its axis. It spins around the sun. The sun spins around the galaxy. The galaxies spin around each other. Like there's laws that that are always active, and we're just always second guessing them. We're like, oh, I don't believe that. Like the sun spins on its axis. Yeah, it might not if a fucking huge asteroid hits it or a planet bumps into it, but that's also a law. You know what I mean?
hmm
It's like we don't really believe in the shit that we say that we believe in, like wholeheartedly. Like all you have to do is apply it and then watch it happen. But if you
well,
stop applying it, then it's gonna work in reverse.
hmm.
Try not being greedy for a week and just see what happens.
See how you
If
feel.
anybody ever if anybody ever takes advantage of me, you didn't take advantage of me. I'm always gonna get back what I put out, whether you give it back to me or not. You could withhold it all you want from me, but if I'm meant to have it, the universe is going to make sure that I have it. And I
Right.
know that. So I allow that law to work in my life. Like, people will be like, Jen, you don't have a job. How do you get money? The universe gives it to me. And they're like, so you're trying to tell me that the universe just gives you money? Yes, in the form of people. And they're like, well, you're just lazy. No, I'm not lazy. Like, oh, you just depend on other people. No, if I have a job or I don't have a job, as long as I'm doing good, I'm always going to have money. I'm always going to have food. I'm always going to have water. I'm always going to have shelter. If I don't, then that's part of my experience. But whatever I'm meant to have, I'm going to have, and I'm going to keep doing good because I know the universe is going to support me. People just don't believe in that enough for it to happen on a mass scale.
Mm-hmm.
That's why you got like a few people that do it, and most people don't because they don't believe in it enough. They don't trust the universe. They don't trust laws that support and facilitate life itself.
Right, and I
Like,
guess but it goes back to taking the language, I think, so seriously in your own inner dialogue. Okay, so like I don't even. That's why I can say I don't really have beliefs, because like I embody what you're talking about naturally. It just makes logical sense in a gut feeling way, which is kind of that's an oxymoron. Like people are thinking logic is brain, gut feeling. What the fuck is that? But that's kind of like a blending of soul, body, and mind, and extrasensory perception at the same time. Like, why would it be any other way? Like, that is super logical to me in a gut feeling sense. So I don't even need to believe in the process to embody the process. And I think that might be simpler. You know what I mean? Like, we make everything so complex in our minds. Even like the things we're saying, we'll say things and it sounds super complex if you're not vibing, or we're rubbing you the wrong way because the content is whatever it is. And um, that was what was meant for that moment and that frequency, and equal in nature, different in degree. Every action has an equal and opposite reaction. So, but all of that's happening simultaneously. So we aren't necessarily concerned with the risk because of embodying the process. So, I agree that people choose to believe or have a lack of trust in everything else. So it kind of it creates a line, an invisible line between embodying the process and knowing it or trusting it or believing it. So how do we, you know, erase that invisible line and make it simpler. You know,
Really
it's like it's about simplifying the process, simplifying getting to that embodiment of infinite being, not for the sake of yourself or others, but for the sake of yourself and others, because you are yourself and others, you know, like, and, but I don't know, man. I just feel like people are so isolated. Like I feel isolated, you know, I've talked about my own mental health more than ever the last year or two, just going through, you know, traumatic life experience, losing loved ones. You know, everybody's, you know, kind of been trapped in their minds the last couple of years with the pandemic. And then you see, you know, just ultimate racist shit, like, you know, the embodiment of America and its white supremacy state the last 5 or 6 years. And, you know, we know what's here. We know what's at stake. We know what's at hand. And we know all the variables and we know the history and we have the tools and the perspective. You know, I think we can deal with it if we aren't scared of it. But like, I think there's just so much fear and isolation driving, you know, people's day-to-day actions that we're limiting ourselves, like biting off your hand to spite your face, or well, I said that one wrong, but you know, man, we're intentionally and mostly subconsciously though limiting ourselves for no good reason. And you know, everybody just wants to be loved. Everybody just wants communion. Everybody just wants security. Like, I understand all those things, and that makes total sense too. So, you know, we have to start with it's okay not be okay, and then to try to build the conversation into something where we can learn to take care of each other a little more healthily. You know, so we're not feeling like we're expending so much energy to get nothing in return, because that's why everybody ends up isolating. They get paranoid or perceive people to be moving against them, and like that's totally understandable too, because of the nature of society. But you know, how do we simplify the process so that we're not focused on judgment and we're even able to love those that are maybe struggling with the process or can't see anything we're saying, can't see the logic behind it? Like, I need to just go do evil, like, if you're gonna do good, I'm just gonna fucking fuck it all up because I can, you know. And I understand that too. Like, that's a logical response. But
trauma
you know, we're all doing both.
trauma-based
I know.
experiences, and then making
Right.
it personal. We talked about it
Yeah,
like a million
I know.
times. And making everything personal, getting traumatized by what we perceive as personal, clinging to these experiences that are trauma-based, and then basing our next experience upon our past traumas without actually, you know, realistically and objectively analyzing it and seeing, you know, the who, what, when, where, why, and how of, you know, how everything works and why it works and where it works and what it is that's working.
There you go. We're all going through some shit. We're all some energies and some physical bodies that are gonna die. So I think we're dealing with that ultimate mortality sense, and that fear is the basis for what we're talking about in terms of the isolation, the trauma, the attachment to the trauma while we're here. Like, and I always, my logical or gut brain is always like, I gotta maximize the efficiency of the moment and make it as good as possible because I'm gonna fucking die. Like, we're all gonna die. And, you know, it just seems logical to not attach to my traumas based on that ultimate mortal trauma of knowing everything is gonna change. And I am infinite only in, you know, mind's eye experience, and this body is impermanent. You know, it's an impermanent reflection of the infinite, and, you know, its frequency or whatever it produces, you know, does reverberate, you know, beyond what is future, past, and present, you know, because, you know, we're here, that energy has always been here, it can't be created or destroyed. So there is that eternal reflection in each moment that lasts beyond the body. But we're scared, man. We're fucking scared. Like, everybody's scared. And I understand that, you know, I feel that from an empathetic side. And I think these conversations, this type of communion, is like a little bit of ease the pain or a little bit of food for thought to maybe squelch that fear or give somebody the impetus to have a conversation about, you know, being scared. And like, if you're raised in a terrible situation and all the variables are against you and you get no love and you're constantly fucking sexually abused or you know, judged or talked down to, I mean, there's just any number of situations that when people are raised in these unhealthy, toxic, emotional and vibrational energy environments, like, what comes out is not surprising. So it's root cause, societal upbringing. It's always nurtured here in the sense of this fucked up experience. And, nature's okay. Nature's got it together. And like you say, Jim, the universe will work it out. Like, what's meant for you is meant for you. And, we got to be open to receiving all of it, no matter, even if it's pain, even if it's trauma, and not attaching to it, letting it flow through us, transmute it, let it go. But whatever I say we got to do isn't necessarily what we got to do. Do the best we can with what we got.
Well, at the end of the day, it's all about our desires. Like, your reality only reflects what you desire, and you can only desire what you're capable of desiring in the level of desire at any given time. It's in ratio to the capacity of the organism, which is relative to the sum total of events. So it's a system of principles that laws are emergent properties of, and we all coexist within this ultimate coherent relative reality. And then we're all having these relative experiences with an ultimate purpose, and we're unaware of what that is. And it's like your life is determined by what you desire, and there's different levels to desire. And then once you reach the pinnacle of desires, you can then reach a level where you no longer desire for yourself, because the lower the vibratory frequency of your desire, the more selfish and egocentric your desire is, which creates more trauma-based experiences, because you're not living and letting live, because you're perceiving yourself as an independent organism who's fighting for its own survival, who is in fear of the degradation of the organism in the midst of fighting for its own survival. And then you're not aware of where you came from before birth and where you're going after death.
Correct.
You know what I mean? So it's like, if you can answer some of these basic, if we could answer some of these basic problems, or these basic questions which lead to these very complex problems, if we can answer this and a person is receptive and he's willing and able to receive and follow instructions and apply and make practical these principles, then you can have the experience of how the universe actually works and how it's structured and how it functions and why it is the way that it is. And then you could live a more objective life. But until then, you're going to continue to increase your capacity to selfishly desire for yourself. And then eventually, once you reach the summit of selfish desires, you then realize that none of these desires can truly be satisfied, which then leads to altruism. So a person has to go through the process of seeking selfishly to the summit of selfishness, and then never being satiated by the selfish conquest of their desires. And then they realize the only thing that can truly satiate you is being altruistic and receiving for the sake of giving, not because you will receive, but like you said, because not because you're like, oh, I'm going to do this because I will receive, because that's still selfish. Because it's like, well, if I give you something, you got to give me something. But if you do it because you know that you are the person you're doing it for, equal in nature, different in degree, and you understand that notion, and you understand that this is real, and it's diametrically opposed to any form of selfishness, which is just a delusion that humans suffer from when they're under the influence of these lower vibratory desires. Then you reach a point where you're like, okay, now I'm satiated, because in giving I ultimately receive, but I don't do it to receive, though I will receive, because that's the law. You know what I mean? So it's like, you know, we have to get past all of this, this blissful as ignorance. I mean, ignorance is blissful. I mean,
I like that.
We're living in a, and it's not even blissful. It's like ignorance is misery. That's what they should say.
You're right.
You know what I mean?
Right. You're right. What a crazy phrase.
Yeah, whoever came up with that was like, yo, I don't want to know
shit.
We'll
keep this one going for a long time. Oh my God.
Yeah, you know.
Yo,
Yeah, let's
Exurt Beatz, are
perpetuate
you
this
here,
lie.
bro? What are you doing? What are you doing, Norvell? Is Norvell here? Is it just me and you, Jen?
I guess
What's
it's
he
just me
doing?
and you.
Is he mowing the lawn? I want him to play. I sent him a song. The song you heard last night, 10:15 cut, is in the building, and I want him to play that before the hour is up, and we're approaching an hour. So whenever he gets back in here, we'll make him play that song. I think that song has some relation to some of the conversation we've been talking about too. Um, but yeah, we're kind of here and there and everywhere and nowhere all at the same time. So that's why this is the Guides of Nothing Ever.
Yeah, I don't know where he
Uh,
vanished to. He's probably
yeah,
taking care of the baby.
I guess, yeah. Brand new 2-day old son, Ellis Ellis Deshawn. Ellis Deshawn. He's gonna be a baller. He already a baller. Um, Yo, we're gonna do so tonight is Sunday. It is almost 10 o'clock. High Sunday on Sunday on Instagram. We're gonna check out High Sunday music and the Barkeepers reviews in a bit. Jen, I'll see you in the chat tonight, right? Because you got an entry this week.
Yep. I totally
Yep, you
forgot
get
that I even submitted one.
right. That was a long time ago. That was Monday or Tuesday we did those things. But yeah, probably
And
Monday.
honestly, I didn't see anybody else do theirs. Only a few people, so
There was
it's
only
gonna be
like
fun seeing
10.
who else.
Yeah, I guess we scared them off, but yeah, we'll be in there. You gotta maybe you should go on the show if you feel up to it. Hang with High Sunday. Um, that's gonna be dope. That'll be
Can
a
you hear me?
short show. I'm gonna work on some more music tonight. With Cut, we're gonna try to get another one down. We've got one you haven't heard too, Jen. That I haven't bounced out yet because it's got scratches and bass on it, and all came together that night, 2 nights ago. Shout out DJ Frankie Diesel. Save Roth. Where'd this man go? Did he send me a message somewhere? Oh, Jerome been in here. I ain't been looking at the chat. Damn. Shout out Jerome
Oh yeah,
Duffy.
what's he saying? I'm sure he's in there going in.
Oh man, he was going in, or is. He said he added this to some of what you were saying about desire, the nature of the universe being emptiness. You can never understand true emptiness if you have desire for self. Emptiness is great inspiration to embody the process. Famous Chinese Zen koan, what was your face before you were born? Great line. What was your face before you were born? Another one, we are in the desire realm. Everyone knows they're going to die, but don't think they are until the last moment.
That's a good one.
Yeah, Jerome dropping gems all night. Got to get all these off. Going to great lengths to see things from other people's perspective. Oh, well, that's very sweet. That is definitely an impasse lane. Thursday's episode of Star Trek introduced me to a new concept, radical empathy. I think I might be reading these in reverse. Yeah, maybe. Uh, Jerome been going off. I like that radical empathy. That's definitely a lot of what we're talking about. Many people think monks are lazy. We should do that's a shirt. Just monks are lazy.
Yeah, yeah. Or Lazy Monk. That's a whole brand.
That's a brand, Lazy Monks. Oh, Cut been in here too. We had another listener. Melitha Kalmal. I'm not sure who that is. Maybe ExurtBeatz spin. Dope.
Oh yeah, exactly. Yeah, he should work for the board of the company. That's what
Well,
it
our
is.
host has vacated the building for the moment. We are totally gone now.
Yeah, the guides have gone forever.
Oh, what do we got? We are the gone over mind. Now elevating. Gone over mind, now elevating. There you go. I wonder what the score of the basketball game is. That is really my next thought. Huh? I need to get it going. This is some real life shit. Jen is on the street. If you want, you could go on Hulu, go back to the home, and get the game going. I'd be ecstatic. Yeah.
Yeah, I gotta go. My phone is about to die.
All right, I'll sit here and talk to the wall while we don't close out the show. But I love you, and I'll see you in the chat in an hour or less. Less.
All right.
45,
Love
40
you too.
minutes. Yeah, great show. Good job.
All right, peace.
Love you. Bye. So this is some real shit. It's just Blonju solo. ABC. I'm gonna start announcing the NBA Finals if it's live right now. It might be halftime, but it might be third quarter. I'm hoping it's the third quarter, and I'll do some live NBA broadcasting for y'all. There you go. Click right there. 10:15 cut in the building. Getting the game on. Here we go. And then hit that play button. We're going to do live basketball play-by-play. It's a commercial right now. Shout out Mr. ExurtBeatz, the ghost in the machine. He'll be back soon to close out the show. Let's see if he's... Shout out to Faya, just texted me. Yeah, she is not gonna make it tonight. She says she loves you. My cat, he's in the building. Jerome's still here. Nice. Thank you, Jerome. Jerome, man, you need to point me in the right direction. Let's get another song or two going. I think I've got one or two tasks I have not completed. I was listening to some shit with Cut. She's heard some of our shit, and it's incredible. Love That Body Is Not a Body. That's one of my favorite songs ever. I got scratches on there. DJ Frankie D scratched on there the other night. Must be halftime. I'm not about to freestyle. The whole show was one long prose freestyle. Oh shit, Cut has done something on that beat, so y'all are gonna collab again. Well, I'm not sure. She did something on a beat called Transcend. Well, he said Transcendence, but that's probably the same beat. I hear you, I hear you. Yeah, I love whatever everybody's feeling. Yeah. Jerome, we have 4 songs already. We're gonna hopefully get a 5th one tonight. She's been here most of the week. Like, just getting music done, being an amazing sister. We shout out ATL, Junkies ATL. Catch them on Thursday night on YouTube. 10:15 cut with the episode 76 premiere. She just did an interview with Trife. There he is.
Welcome back.
Oh man.
Sorry.
No, you're good. You're good. You're good. Jen left about 5 minutes ago, and I've been
Had to be a father
rambling
real
like
quick.
mostly incoherently. Yeah, we figured we shouted out the youngin.
For sure.
We had a nice little. He made it to about the hour mark, and I've been rambling for about 6 minutes, like half ramble. But I've been filling the space terribly. Jerome's been in the chat. Yeah, I read all of his
Nice.
comments from earlier. Killing it. But shout out Junkies ATL once again. Trife Thursday night episode 76 featuring 10:15 cut. Y'all can catch that on YouTube at 6 p.m. on the Junkies ATL YouTube page. It's Junkies_TV on YouTube. The Junkies Instagram page is Junkies_ATL, and he goes live every Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday from 10 to 12. Takes submissions for songs and things those nights for the Thursday night show. So y'all catch Trife, man. He's killing it out there. Very consistent and supporting so many independent artists.
Nice.
Yeah, man. I was about to call the basketball game because I didn't know if you were going to come back now or in 10 minutes. So the game is getting ready to start the 3rd quarter.
Yeah, I mean, we're at the hour mark. So
yeah, I know. So we'll close it out, man.
I just want to say a shout out to the Super Hebrew Show for the love, and shout out to everyone on Instagram and Facebook for the love as well on my newborn. I appreciate it. It means a lot.
Congrats.
That's what I had to leave and tend to. I actually got to leave and tend to now. That's why I just came back.
You're good. Love you,
peace.
Man.
Shout out to everyone. Jerome, Cut, and Blonju, Genesis, and DJ Kaushun. I'm ExurtBeatz, and we are the Guides of Nothing Ever.
Love you.